Welcome everybody to another episode of The Filler. We have an amazing cast here, all focused on the artist spotlight, whether that's graphic design, just plain old artwork, emotes, anything you can think of. We have that here pretty much covered. I am your host, MARU. We have The Filler every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I have my co-host, Nagi. He will be joining us later on tonight once he gets on, but we're gonna, go around and introduce our guests and kind of get off to the topic. So, first off, we'll start off with Mr. PHERIAN to my right, maybe your left. I always get confused with this.
So weird.
PHERIAN, tell us who you are, what you do, if you're working on anything, and
Hey, I'm John. I go by PHERIAN online. I am an illustrator mostly. Real life, I'm an emergency coordinator for Homeland Security, so I do more mature stuff when I'm not drawing. But in between the family and the work, I draw a bunch of Destiny related things because the art style of the series really spoke to me. So I decided to break out the pens and digital stuff and try it out again. That's about me.
awesome.
Cool.
Welcome in. And next we have Arceus.
Hi, I'm Arceus, and I'm a graphic designer for Team Remember, and I am. I mainly just focus around the whole esports style of things. I'm trying to bring up the whole community in general into more of like an esports like fashion, and it's kind of separating it from other games in general, because that's just my whole like goal in general for Destiny is to at first like back in D1 when I had like close to a like the closest I ever was to becoming an esports, back then I was really striving for that and stuff like that. But now I really just focus on the whole esports community in general, whether it be COD, Fortnite, or anything like that. And yeah, right now I'm just working on a bunch of like passion projects or case studies and stuff like that. But in real life, I'm just a senior in high school that sits on his computer all day.
Awesome.
Fair.
Glad to have you in. Mr. Brian MONCUS.
My name is Brian MONCUS. I do digital illustration primarily. I would say most of my work probably that's at least seen revolves around Destiny these days, but I do like just anything and everything that I find inspiring or find interesting but mostly digital. I do dabble in traditional work still, but no graphic design, unfortunately, because this is just not something that I can quite wrap my head around.
All right. Next, we have a returning guest, Young Khan.
Hello, I'm Khan. I'm a full-time graphic designer, illustrator, motion designer, apparel designer, and I make a lot of stuff. I got back into the artwork after a decade hiatus about 4 years ago because of Destiny, because of COD 1. I was like, I'd really like to do art again. And then it spiraled out of control, and now this is my full-time job. So, there.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Welcome back in, Khan. Last but not least, the man who actually made the graphic design for my personal stream and for the filler stream. You might have seen his work all around, Mr. Forsaken.
Hello. I am Kenneth, but I go by Forsaken online. I'm a graphic designer. I do streams, brand revamps, merch, apparel, motion design, pretty much anything that I find interesting. I've been doing this for going on 10 years next year. I went to 2 different schools. But I dropped out of both of them, so no degree. But yeah, I just like to create stuff. I've been creative since I was a kid, and then I found out you can make a living off of drawing stuff and making stuff look pretty. So I was like, that's where I want to be. So yeah, that's me. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you all on here. As we all know, for streamers, graphic designers and artists are the backbone. If it wasn't for you guys, we would pretty much be here with no overlays, no emotes, no artwork to spruce up everything. So I do want to say I appreciate you all for everything you do, and the fact that you can take something in your mind with your imagination and bring it to paper and pen, or to Apple Pencil and iPad, whatever you guys, whatever tablets you guys are using these days. But yeah, you guys can take something. I have this. I always wanted to learn how to draw, and I always try. And Farron, I know you were saying before, like it takes a lot of discipline. A lot of this, what you do is straight up discipline. So, what is it that you guys try to do as best as you can, whether it's successful or not, and trying to make sure that you're practicing that art and making sure you kind of stay on top of your game, especially when there's new things coming out in terms of technology and different type of art forms. And anybody can take this question.
If you're asking me, it would be constant consumption of media that engages you. Just like, so I write on the side too. It's a lot easier to write if you're reading, because you're inspired by the way you pick up the way other people write. You pick up different ways of writing, different sentence structures, that sort of thing. Same thing with art for me. The more art that I see that I aspire to be like or whatever, it pushes me to want to draw some more. Now, I'm not exactly the most competitive person. I'm not trying to up my game necessarily, but it does push me to want to draw more, which in turn makes me get better. Because I mean, to become an expert at something, it's purely about repetition and doing that 10,000 hours of practice, man. That's my answer as far as how that goes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Anybody else want to take it?
Oh yeah,
I guess I'll. Oh,
go ahead.
Don?
Oh yeah, no. I was gonna say go because since comes consumption of media, I've built up just a very vast visual library over the past few years. Just things like, well, what are you inspired by? I'm like, everything I see, every day. You just take notice of the small things as you go through the day. Being observant is a huge thing because you don't really need a lot of high technology to create anything. You don't need the latest program, tablet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The wheel will be the wheel. It'll still roll, whether it's a $2 wheel or a $20,000 wheel. So the technology is irrelevant when it comes to just base illustration. When you start getting the motion design and stuff like that, you're gonna up your game with all the inside bits and programs and plugins, et cetera, et cetera. But it could be as simple as looking outside one day and the snow looks just a certain kind of way on the street. You pick up that certain like light burst across the face of new snow. I'm like, man, that was a great color palette. Or it could be you're watching 300 for the third or fourth time. You like see a guy jump through the air. Like, I wonder if I can animate somebody like that in Blender. Can I make that with the lighting and the glow off with the spears, and you see the spear shine and you get that 3D effect? Like, can I do that? And then you attempt it and you fail. You try again, and then you eventually get better and better and better. So yeah, so it's just it's an amalgamation of just taking things that don't feel like they're connected at all, and then making them connect into something cohesive.
Forsaken, you want to jump on that?
One thing that I was just gonna say is trying to fill your space with inspiration, whether that be in like your actual space or your space online, like Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I have boards everywhere that will give me like some sort of inspiration, whether it be typography, 3D design, brand design, logo design, things like that. Like I'm always scrolling through. I would say it's about 80% Pinterest and 20% Twitter. I've pretty much stopped using Instagram because their algorithm is trash. But yeah, it's just it is. But yeah, just trying to find it your space in like your world, your bubble, and yeah. So that's the main thing for me, is trying to find inspiration wherever you can.
Anybody else want to jump on?
I'll say a few things. My drive and motivation for art in general has always come from an emotional source. So Destiny to me wasn't just like a video game. It was a story. It's like Lord of the Rings, or I wouldn't compare it to Lord of the Rings, but um it was still words to me, like the lore and how you visualize these moments in that universe. That drives me to create something, and I think that does for just about anything we read or we can imagine. If you're an artist, well, if you're anybody, you always have a visual in your head when you're reading something. But as an artist, like we do develop the disciplines to kind of create something out of that, I guess you could say. And mine has always been something very emotional. So like I can read something, but if I don't have I don't feel something from it, I'm not driven to really create from it. And that's always been an issue with me because if I can't just draw random things on demand and it be something good to me. Like I don't have that same tie to it. So um inspiration for me, I can surround myself with a lot of things that are there as a reminder to me, but nothing gets me super pumped more than reading something or watching a movie that has a story to tell beyond what you're seeing or reading. Like it's something that you can take and turn into something to show someone else, like, hey, this is what I'm seeing when I read this, like that's always been the most interesting part about art to me, in illustration, at least from my standpoint.
Nice. I like that.
Well
No.
said. Well said.
Now, kind of going based on that, how often do you guys start a piece and you wind up not finishing it because you're just like,
Every
this
day.
isn't this isn't going anywhere where I planned, and you're just like, you know what,
Every
I'm done
single
with this, and you move on to the next. If you had to put like a percentage on it,
60%. Like, I'm pretty sure I have about 30 to 40 work in progresses that I haven't touched in a month or two because I'm just like, I don't like the way this is going, and then I'll just stop doing it, and I'll just move on to something else. I'll just start over, and then it just never gets touched again.
now
Um,
is it that you're never gonna you're just done with that piece and you're not gonna keep working on it, or is it like, you know what, I'm just gonna save this for when I become inspired with this piece again?
I think it's a mix of both. Like I'll have my sketchbook that I'll do like some quick logo sketches or whatever, and I'll have it and see it from time to time, and then I'll have a client that comes by that likes that one that I did like 2 or 3 months ago, and I was like, all right, cool. So I'll go back and refine that, and then use it for their project. But in terms of like personal pieces that I start and don't finish, it can, I would say, not really. Like it'll just get scrapped
Scrap.
usually. Yeah, but that's just me.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
no, you go.
I kind of just rapid fire make things every single day. From watching PHERIAN. So if I'm not
do
done,
the same thing when I'm watching Con.
yeah, if I'm not done in an hour or two, and I'm usually done in an hour, because the things I make, they're not paintings or anything, but I have the idea I want to do. And if you're working in Illustrator, it's like cut, snip, snip. You've done it like 10,000 times. You're like, and I'm done. And there's a t-shirt design, and that's out the door. Or if it's a drawing, I draw. I literally take 1 to 2 hours a day every day, beginning of stream, to do whatever I want to do, because I need to have that. I work 7 days a week. If I needed to just do 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours a day, just draw whatever I want, just practice. And then sometimes I'll start coloring, and then sometimes I won't. But I don't consider them unfinished or finished. They're just are just done.
Right.
I mean, they're done for me. Like I don't judge them. They're not whips. Like, why don't you push this piece further? I don't want to. I don't see the purpose in pushing this any further. I got what I need to get out of it. It's
Right.
like it's like you can make a pizza, but yeah, got pepperoni on it. Well, don't you want to get some mushrooms and everything else? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna eat it like this. I'm gonna eat it just like this. I'm gonna eat it cold and half done. So whips and stuff and that kind of stuff. I literally just I know what I want to see at the end. So I have the more I do, I have way less wasted motion between A and B. That's kind of why my productivity's kind of stupid high. Because it's all formulaic, and when I do stuff in the first hour or two, I try to break that formula and try something different. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks cool. Now I try to incorporate that a little bit, try to take that little bit of research, that hour to research, and bring it back to another project. But yeah, unless it's a project for a client, it's usually done in an hour or two. I've rarely come back to something I've worked on yesterday today. And when I mean rarely, I mean like out of the 300 plus personal pieces I did last year, I came back to one and later that night, and I didn't come back the next day, or the stream ended. Like, I think I draw the eyes a little bit better. This like the next day, like that's wiped my memory.
Arceus, you want to add something to that?
Yeah. I feel like I'm more of like the odd one out. I don't really have unfinished pieces. I'm like Khan, where I could finish like a header or a stream revamp or anything like that within an hour, actually. Just because it's like, I don't know, I do have high productivity, but it's just like when I feel like I want to finish it, because I tend to get like emotionally attached to the piece to the point where I want to finish it. And if I feel like I can't, I'll take like a day or two break from it, get back on it, and finish it. I have more blank pieces than I do unfinished pieces.
Got it. Okay. And now,
See, for me, it's time is the most valuable resource you have in life, basically, right?
100%.
How you use your time. So I don't waste my time with stuff that I feel like is good enough, I guess. Most of the things that I do are not high-end commission pieces or anything. It's just for me. I'm just doing it because I want to. And at some point, I get restless, and I'm like, I want to do something else now, and I'm good. I just move on to the next one. The portraits that I do are great because I can just play around with all kinds of different aspects of what I want to do that day, any given day, and move on. And I don't have to worry about, no one paid me for them, so it's just what you get. You might get the sketchy one, you might get the bright color one, you might get the realistic one, you might get the cartoon. It depends on how I feel that day, And but I don't waste time lingering on whether or not it's good enough, because that I need that time. I need to move on to something else. I use that time to get better at something, move forward, try a different thing. Time, man, you got to use that time correctly.
I wanted to kind of talk about the art styles you guys kind of use. Brian, you have a really weird one. When I was watching you do a sketch one time, watching you do art, and I mean weird in like a good way. It's okay. I've never seen
No,
it done
it's just
like that
weird.
before.
Wrong.
But you do like a charcoal type of thing, and then like you do like a charcoal outline almost, and then it just turns into this amazing piece. And I've never seen that before. And obviously, I'm not super proficient in how the art terms are, but like, is that what's the name of that type of artwork, or is that something that you kind of like made yourself, or that's just how you kind of do your thing?
It's definitely not something I've made myself. It's probably more of a variation of some traditional techniques. Um, so, like, a lot of what I learned early on when it came to black and white artwork was almost a subtractive technique versus like shading. So, like, if you think of it backwards, like if you think of someone drawing a sphere and then shading it with a light source, you're going to have your light sources, but they're going to start with their shading and different values of shading versus starting with the silhouette of something and then pulling out the light areas with an eraser if you were doing this on pencil and paper. So it's the same thing, only digital. And charcoal utilizes a lot of that, because if you're dealing with a very classical approach to charcoal, you're dealing with really high contrast, heavy shadows with really bright lit areas that really define the form. So when I learned more about that approach when I was in college from my figure drawing professor, it just kind of became like the way I started seeing things. I would actually say I see things simpler that way. So like if you were to tell me to draw Superman, I'm not going to think necessarily about how each muscle connects, although I do know those things because I did study anatomy and I have done my practice in that area. I'm going to think about how the light hits those forms and create the shapes and what you see from the light hitting those forms versus actually drawing individual shapes to create muscles and so on. Basically how you see it in like books and things. Not that that's a wrong way of doing things, that I feel like that's a good thing, but I just feel like the way I do it, to me, it's faster to the point of what I'm trying to get to versus building up a figure and then adding value on top of those shapes. So what you're seeing though is just the end result of all that. It's me looking into a dark room and shining a light on something. So like whatever I'm drawing, if I'm drawing a character in a certain position, I have that silhouette in my mind, kinda. I'm just searching for it, if that makes sense.
No,
And I'm
100%.
just playing with the
Yeah.
shadows until I find it. That's the best way I can really describe it.
Well,
And
Brian,
that's the foundation part. So.
Yeah.
yeah, what I was gonna say is you do know all the muscles and structures, so you can skip. Your brain is already skipping the step
Yeah.
of drawing the shape of the bicep and where the tricep is. And
Yeah, so like if I'm
Yeah.
drawing like the forms of a hand, or I've practiced the other way growing up. Like I used to draw comic books when I was a kid and learned anatomy from that growing up the other way. So I knew I had to learn muscles, and Khan can relate to this. If you've ever been into weightlifting, you know how the muscles work. And I'm not saying anybody else here can't relate to this, but Khan is got
we
an
all know Khan is the
extensive,
weightlift champion.
but,
Yeah.
but like if you're into lifting, you know these things because you have to know what muscles are being hit by which exercises and so on and so forth. And just through that process, you kind of learn how the things work. But yeah, so like when I'm drawing, I've already know all this stuff, so I'm kind of just shining light and value in places where the form would raise or lower, depending on the angle you're looking at it and where the light source is coming from. So
Yeah, the reason I brought it up is either I was in one of your streams or you put out a tweet with like the time lapse video, I think it was, and
Yeah.
just seeing it turn from like just like a charcoal darkness into like this end result. It kind of blew my mind because I've never seen anybody draw like that. You know, obviously we start with the outline, then kind of go from there. But it's almost like you did it in like pretty much like you said in reverse kind of order in a sense. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Anybody else have like a specific form? And I guess also like a two-part question. Have you guys ever tried like other forms and maybe implemented it into like your main, or just was like, you know what, this isn't really for me?
I tried Brian's style and it just ended up a mess, just an absolute mess. It's like some kind of Cthulhu-esque amalgamation. Just tentacles came out. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. No, I mean I'm more traditional in the style of quick sketch, and then build it up from there, and then go on. But Brian's style actually reminds me a lot of sculpting. If you've ever done stone sculpture or something like that, you can't. I mean, you can maybe do a little outline on the outside, but eventually you got to just chip away and reveal what's beneath it. So you got to have that foundation in your head already. You can't. There's no guesswork. There's no sketching. You're either right or wrong. And luckily, with Procreate, you can be wrong a few times. With real stone, you can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, I'm a traditional. I draw a very, very loose sketch. And then with the digital, I draw a new sketch on top of it that's a little bit more refined. And then most of the time, I start straight into line work from there. And that's just years of doing it. I've gotten used to throwing lines down with a little bit of confidence and stuff like that. But and then depending on the day, sometimes I'll do flat shading, cell shading, molding, all that other stuff. All depends on how I feel.
Con, what about you?
Oh, I don't really have a set like a set style in stone. I kind of like to be amorphous and flexible because my clients come to me with so many different things. I just try to be as pliable as possible. So when people say, "Can you do this for me?" I'm like, "No, but I'll learn how," and usually I pull it off. So I try to be as flexible as possible. I'm learning how to do character design now. I've been doing it for about a year or so, like doing traditional manga and anime style. So that's been fun. It's coming along pretty well. But I like to do like pencil sketches, like just using like just a soft round and just kind of like kind of what Brian does. But I use outlines. Except for I just shade over the entire thing with just the exact same soft round. Just scribble over the entire thing and then just slowly go with my eraser and just kind of trip away at the lights and shadows and stuff like that. So that's been a lot of fun. So I don't like being like pigeonholed into doing certain things. That's why I kind of got away from doing just emotes. Because as fun as they are, I mean, it's not really what I want to do forever. Like I'm doing character design now, but I don't really think character design would be my new occupation. Or I just like to do, I like to learn different things. Like
I don't know if you've done enough emotes yet, though. Sure.
I think you can do a couple more hundred, maybe a couple more thousand.
4,700 plus.
God, man, Con, I'm still working on the circle over here, but maybe I'll catch up one day.
I mean, when I hit 5K, you can pass the mantle to somebody else.
There you go.
I need a print of every single emote, just like one giant print, and just have
I almost crashed Illustrator.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You'd have to flatten that crap out and just
that would be amazing.
Constantly
though.
do it over and
I
over again.
tried, and it was at the 3K mark too. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I brought them in 1K at a time, and I made a banner out of it for the last Guardian Con I was at, and it was nice. It was like 1,000 or 1,500 emotes, so one like 8-foot by 4-foot banner, and the emotes were tiny.
How big was the file?
Oh, it's got to be a few hundred megabytes, but I don't
Yeah,
know. Even after I flattened it, it was still pretty high.
Created like 1 gigabyte files in Photoshop's like, stop,
please
stop.
Your computer's wheezing like, why are you doing this to me?
That's true.
I feel attacked.
So for Arceus and Forsaken, obviously you guys are graphic designers. Is there like, I guess a technique that you guys would have, or is it more? I guess is it more simple because you're kind of just using shapes, like just lines and squares and stuff.
Arceus, you want to take over first?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. I feel like my technique, I don't know if I would call it a technique, honestly. Like, I feel like for me, I can look at something and almost know how to like recreate it, but not in like the way it was originally made. Maybe like I'll do it a little bit differently, so it'll be off in certain things and like that. But in the world of esports, you kind of have to take into consideration the root of problem solving in general, because when you're working for a brand, they want to stand out as big as possible. So you want to figure out what's their problems. Oh, maybe it's not enough variety in terms of their scoreboards or their pieces and stuff like that. So there's no mood, and it could be something as simple as where the picture is placed or the typography that they use. And I feel like that's why my style is more clean, as as people like to say, just because I use one font for everything.
Yeah.
And recently I decided to switch it up just because it's like, it's not that I kind of want to try something, I wanted to be versatile. I wanted to be the jack of all trades when it comes to styles and stuff like that. right now I'm learning motion design as well, which is definitely gonna bring up the game. And
Good luck.
dude, I'm on a Mac, so I can't even crack the plugins. I actually have to pay for them. So
Oh, really?
yeah, like
Oh,
Okay,
I mean,
Pardon,
always pay for your plugins. Always pay for your plugins.
yes.
But
Even if it's free, drop a couple bucks. Like,
yes.
support.
and
But yeah,
so Forsaken, what about you?
In terms of techniques, I don't really have a technique per se. I just have like my style because I think that my style is more type heavy. And instead of using like smokes and sparks and flares to add texture, I use type as texture to kind of give some sort of depth to it instead of just like your cracks and like your grain and things like that to make it more stylized. But in terms of technique, I go back to one of my classes from school. Page layout is a big thing because you have to like know like if one side is too heavy type wise, or like if there's a certain hierarchy that you have to keep in mind, things like that. But yeah, that's the main thing is page layout. And I guess to quote Thanos, like everything is a balance or something along those lines. So
spacing's key for design.
yeah.
Love it, love it.
What's going on, Cliff?
So
Wait,
sorry that I'm late.
Oh, okay, I was about to say your Discord.
No. I apologize for being so late. I'm not late. Y'all are early. Damn it, y'all are early. Hi everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Please don't
What's
let
up,
me
man?
stop. Don't let me stop what y'all are doing. Y'all just fill me in. I get there.
I did have
I like to draw things.
Like to draw. Oh.
I did have some questions coming in because I do want to get through all of them just in case. We can go around and pretty much answer in order. Let's see. One question I have here is, what would be your dream job to do? And I guess that means like either with a brand or like some type of artwork. I'm assuming maybe like a comic or a book or something like that. So what would be your dream job?
Who wants to go first?
I guess
Hi,
I can go
Brian.
first.
Hi,
All right.
Brian.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Con.
Hi.
All right, Jack, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I guess in terms of dream jobs, the dream job is not to have to work for anybody ever again. That's the dream job.
Yeah.
I want to push my my brand and my content to be kind of self-sustaining, which is it mostly kind of already is, and kind of cut back my client work. Or right now, client work to brand stuff is like 80-20, and I kind of want to get it more 40-60. And hopefully I can just get down to 80-20. I can pick whatever jobs I want. So that's the dream project is to expand my merchandise and do more lifestyle branding, like apparel, and the education wing of my my brand, which is already like going really well. So the dream job is to not have to work for another company or person. Yeah.
My man, 50 grand. I like that. You better stack like 100 pennies.
Anybody else?
I'll go. I'm actually currently I have been for these 6 years now. I'm actually a mortgage lender by day, and the dream job for me would be similar to what Khan's saying as far as not having to work for anybody except for yourself. But I would only want that if I could work. I don't have to make a lot of money. It's not about that. But if I could be happy making work that would sustain me and my family and just do that, that would be great. Problem is, in freelance illustration world, it's a very, very tough area. Uh, you can be a great artist and still just not get the jobs that you would like, you know. Um, and I have plenty of opportunities sometimes that come my way that just might not be the right fit, and that's the biggest struggle to me, is that you can do these things, but some things just aren't something that you want to jump into. And so that's been a constant struggle, but ultimately, uh, to not have to work for someone except for yourself, making content or illustrations or anything, um, and just be happy. That's the ultimate goal.
Preach.
Love it.
Yeah.
Agreed. I agree with that. I agree with that entirely. I think ultimately, I mean, when people say that, what would be the dream job, don't nobody want to work. Who the hell want to work?
Preach.
We're not with that life. You know what I'm saying? Pay me to do nothing. Pay me to be a young man. Pay me to
To
exist.
live. Right.
I'm great. I don't need to do nothing. I'm just playing. No, I definitely agree with that. 100%. I really have nothing to say because y'all are really just nail on the noggin.
Right.
If nobody else has that, we can get to the next question.
I was just gonna say I'd win the lottery. That'd be great, but
That's a great job.
no, my thing, it really doesn't matter what I'm doing as long as I have time with my family. Like, because I don't want to do like Khan's discipline and workload would drive me crazy. 7 days a week, you must be out of your mind. So,
Trying to
a certain
conquer.
level of psychosis that's
Gotta
involved.
conquer, exactly.
Yeah,
Conquer, bro.
and I don't have that, man. I'm not a super competitive person by nature. I don't have that drive. So for me, if I can I work an 8 to 4 job right now, and I come home, hang out with my kids, teach them some stuff. We play some games together, put them to bed, hang out with my wife, watch Superstore, that kind of stuff. It just move on. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't care if I'm shoveling, snow, digging ditches, or helping people. As long as I'm doing something of worth to people and not taking away from society, so it matters.
Agreed.
Like that.
One of the main things that I always tell me, Kenneth, me and you have been friends for years. One of the main things that constantly comes out of my mouth is that a mansion is just a mansion. It doesn't mean shit unless you have somebody in it. So it's like,
Right.
as long as I'm able to be around my loved ones, I'm cool.
Mhm.
Whatever it is. If I could just maintain and live, no struggle. That's it. Doesn't matter what it is.
Next question I have here is, what is your favorite? I'll actually add on to this. What's your favorite art piece that you've seen? And I'll add on, what's the favorite art piece that you've done also?
Ooh.
So your favorite art
What
piece.
if I don't like anything I made? Nah, I'm just-
You're on
It's
the
okay.
wrong
We
show.
don't like anything you've made either.
oh man.
Y'all are ruthless. I don't need that.
Shots fired.
Just
God, that's
playing.
tough.
Damn.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
That's extremely hard, though.
Yeah, favorite art piece, and then favorite one you've done.
Oh God.
The favorite one that I've done is none, because oh wait, that's a lie. That's a lie.
You've done some artwork.
I'm telling y'all this out of confidence. Don't make fun of me and don't judge me. I'm not talking about the people that's here with you guys are great. You designers, you guys are great. I love you guys. You guys are neat. I'm talking about the chat. You guys are assholes. Everyone in chat is what I'm saying. I had imaginary friends when I was a kid, and I drew each of them. Like I drew all of them. That's where they came from. I had that much like power in my imagination. I knew everything from the texture of their hair, their names, their backstories. Like, hello, like that was. I want to say Hugo. Hugo was one of my imaginary friends, and he was this guy about 13 years old, and he had like these huge, like angelic, like Angels in America. I don't know, guys, if you guys remember that show that was on HBO. It's called Angels in America.
Okay.
There's a scene where there's like these like amazing, huge angelic wings, and that's what I put on Hugo. And to this day, I visually remember every single stroke, and that's the only one that I'm very proud of. My favorite art piece would have to be the panel of Civil War II, where Miles Morales is holding Captain America with a with a spike through his chest. He's just holding a dead Captain America in his bare hands. And that was just, I can never not see that. That is an amazing, amazing art piece. J. Scott Campbell.
Oh, it's a good artist.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
a really
Campbell.
good artist.
For me, there was a piece by Albert Dürer, who was an old artist, called Melancholia. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah.
He's a wood printer, yeah.
Yeah,
Wood
correct.
print, yeah.
I can post a link to you, but it's a wood print, and it's like an angel sitting there, and he's got a bunch of symbolism all around him, scattered everywhere, and it's all about the being melancholy is literally what it's about. Sad for the sake of being sad, not understanding your placement in God's plan, that kind of thing, you know. But for a guy that was cutting wood, it's ridiculously detailed. It's amazing.
Right.
It resonated with me early on in life and kind of stuck with me. As a child growing up, it was, you know, comics just across the board, right? Your classic stuff. As far as pieces I've done, I did a pretty good set of conceptual armor designs from Destiny for Titan, Hunter, and Warlock. They're just in black and white, and they came out pretty good. So I don't really spend a lot of time delving on my own stuff.
Now, we're gonna keep going around answering the question, but Pherian, what you just talked about with the concept art, I want to revisit that after we kind of go through in the questions. But who else wants to? Well, I can go real quick for everybody still thinking. This is a piece I did. I am by no means an artist, but this is the one piece I started and finished, and it was after Stan Lee had passed away, and I just got the inspiration. I was like, okay, I'll do it, but I literally just showed up to camera here. I'm not be able to see it like the best,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
like Infinity Gauntlet.
You can definitely tell what it is, and that's the goal of pretty much any piece of art.
Yeah, kind of just did that, and yeah, I really liked it. I was like, okay, cool. But then like now I try to draw stuff and I can't do anything. But it was the one piece I was super proud of finishing. In terms of like my favorites, I mean, there's so many amazing artworks. This is one right here. Pherian did this one of me.
Oh yeah, of you.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Makes me look 100 times better than I actually do. So, but I mean,
It's
yeah,
your
like
hero,
there's so many
it's
different
easier.
pieces and so many different styles. It's hard to choose. And especially because they're all different. Probably if the one that comes to my head, honestly though, is I forget which comic book it was, but it was basically a future glimpse into the Marvel world, and Tony Stark was actually the Sorcerer Supreme. So I really like that art from there because when I saw it's my two favorite superheroes, which is Iron Man and Doctor
You, that's
Strange,
why
which
you
is
look
who
like
I look like. You know, I'm working on it.
There's still one you're missing though, Mike.
Oh. Oh yeah, I did that of Nagi. I forgot about that one. I did that one for Nagi.
That's good.
You see the black shit?
As Deku?
You see the black shit on my face? You see that? Funny story. Funny story. And I'm kind of mad at him for actually fucking drawing it. I tried to fucking grow a beard and the shit wouldn't connect.
And it was just two pieces, two like
It's
square
patchy
rectangles.
fucking hair. And bro, I was pissed. I was mad as shit, motherfucker. Patchy ass hair, bro.
I get
My
it.
fucking beard can't connect. He wanted to make sure people knew that my
Brian.
beard don't connect.
You got Brian and Khan over here looking sexy, and
That's
I
cold
got-
as ice, man. That's cold.
I got Native American in me, and I just grow like this weird pedo stash thing that just kind of
Oh,
grows
God.
across. It's bad. You don't. So I have to shave every day just to be allowed near schools. You know.
That's fucked up. I posted that. That photo was posted on January 25th, 2019. The whole year of 2019, I had to keep seeing the fucking patchy shit. And I had to act like I loved it, but I had to act like I wasn't mad. But I love you, Mike. I still cherish that piece, bro.
I completely forgot about that one. Okay, so I went for and went Nagi. Brian, what about you?
eh, I get asked that so many times. As far as like favorite art, I don't have. I have tons of them. But they're all like from such a big spectrum, from classical art all the way up to like digital media stuff. Like it's just too hard because everything's you just over time you grow and you change so much that you may have liked one thing a ton at one point, and then as you older things change, but you can still look back and say, wow, that's really cool. But I don't know, I just don't have anything that's a favorite of mine. I have tons of artists too. I have no favorite artist. And a favorite, I definitely don't have a favorite piece. I know this is kind of boring, but my work goes from one thing to the next. I'm happy with it when it's done, and then I'm on to the next one, and I'm more excited about that one
Mhm.
than I was the one before because I've learned something different on that one. And I look back at the other one, and I'm like, I could have done something here, and I didn't. And it just builds like that. So I can't ever be satisfied with any piece that I do. It's like a curse. It sucks. Not completely satisfied. I mean, I'm not unhappy with anything, but I'm always learning, so I'm always improving. So I'm always looking back at the last piece like it could have been better.
I'm pretty sure that's the artist curse.
It is.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Con, what about you?
Probably my favorite piece of art is probably a few seconds of animation from Akira, the anime. So I couldn't every frame. If you just freeze frame on the entire movie, every frame is beautiful. But there is a section of animation where I'm spaced on the character's name. He was he stole the main character's bike, and then he gets he's the psychic powers, but then his arm like bursts into a bunch of like pipes and organs and like wires, and it spreads out from his arm. It's like 4 or 5 seconds, and I've rewound it and watched it so many times that it to me it's just one piece of art. It is one of the most jaw-dropping pieces of animation you'll ever see. It was made over 34 years ago, 35 years ago, probably 30 plus years ago. It was made in the 80s, early to mid 80s. And it still rivals anything that anybody's ever animated today. So that like one little section of where his arm like bursts into like all these like it just mutates. But if you look at it frame by frame, it looks you can see like frame by frame animation. You kind of see where this is a frame, this is a frame. It just looks unreal. It looks like ungodly the way the person drew each frame in between it. Is just like it boggles the imagination. That's my favorite piece of art. I'm gonna call that those 4 seconds of animation art. And my favorite piece that I've done is easy because I got to work with a person and do a collaboration with them. The person that got me into doing art. And that's Cobb One. We did a 50-50 piece of a fallen captain. And like the entire time I was like literally just fangirling so hard, like
What's up, Cobb?
Cobb was the first person that myself and Nagi worked with to get some artwork done, and he's amazing. And right now he's
Great dude.
obviously doing some tops cards for Star Wars, which I'm super hyped for him. He's doing some amazing
He's
work
living
there.
the life.
Yeah, super cool dude.
So yeah, that's the piece. Yeah.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
Forsaken?
Oh, I've been thinking about this ever since you brought up the question. I really don't have a piece in mind, but more artists. If I had to pick like a graphic designer, it's a toss up between Aaron Draplin, who's done a lot of stuff for the presidential campaigns. His stuff is very unique. It's not shaded or anything. It's just shapes. It's just a big old pile of shapes, but it makes something, and it's really, really, really cool to look at and just glance over. Because I have his book, and it's just filled with his logos that he's done. It's just really, really cool. But
Got it here on my desk. Love that book.
I love that book, dude. It's so good. But if I had to pick a project or a another artist, I would say Twaz, because he was just my inspiration to start this. Yeah, like me and Cliff know. Yeah, Twaz was the guy that
I would not have
started
known me if it,
all
yeah, I
of
would not
this.
know me if it wasn't for Twice. Yeah, I would not know me.
Right.
I would not know me. It's so crazy how
And
that story went down.
really
Insane.
excited for the future from me, you, and Twaz. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so good, dude.
Stop, dude.
But-
My nipples perky.
Yeah, Twaz. What's going on, Sirius? I see you in the chat. But yeah, his stuff that he's done for Tim the Tatman, for T-Pain, and most recently the brand refresh for Lupo is amazing. But yeah, his stuff that he's done for Adidas, for Marvel, is just amazing. Like, I really can't pick a piece that he's done as my favorite. But in terms of like my art that I've done that's my favorite, pretty much I would say it would be anything I've done for Cliff, because I'm trying new stuff when I'm working with Cliff's like brand.
On your test
'cause-
subject?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's fucked up, man. What?
But
This whole time you've been winging it with my shit? Are you serious?
this whole time I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just winging it when it comes to your work. No,
Okay.
but-
Adulthood.
Now that we
Yeah.
know this, everything's gonna flop because we've been going
Yeah.
crazy for this long.
No, but yeah, like that is like my prized piece, is your entire brand. Like it is on your PC, it's on websites, it was on Bungie.net this past week. It's just that is my child. And
Listen, for it's funny that he's saying that. I'm gonna cut you off, Kenneth. Yes, I do.
it's all good. I know you do.
I love you, man. To go back to way back. A lot of people like, we talk about the story a lot, but a lot of people don't know the actual story. The reason why I say that nobody would really know who I am because of Twaz is because I was working at Starbucks and I reached out to Twaz before I was anything, before I knew anything or anyone. I wanted to have a channel revamp. Mike, you know me, so you know that a channel revamp is just regular for me. I think I revamped my channel at least 13 times in a couple of months. It was ridiculous. Come on, Khan, you can't be that disappointed in me, bro.
Oh, but I am.
But I am.
Anyway, so I reached out to Twaz and I was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, I basically reached out to him to get a channel revamp. And Twaz was straightforward. And this is the most blunt that I've ever had somebody be professionally. He answered all my questions. He gave me all the information that I asked for, but he was very honest. He was like, listen, I have a payment plan for 1, 2, and 3, but just make sure that you can afford me. What you mean? What do you mean by that? And then he told me, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
all right. Anyway, long story short, the reasons why you guys know me now is because Twaz was actually not being able to afford Twaz was the reason why I decided to teach myself graphic design, which then threw me into the concept of content creation. And then it just steamrolled from there. And then, you know, we started doing what Mike, and Purple Juice Man started doing the whole thing with Little Light Radio. And then Forsaken came up to all of us before he knew who any of us was. We were all Instagram guys. And he tried to do a campaign for a streaming community. I don't know if you guys remember the Destiny t-shirt years ago where Bungie released the shirt. Right, the IG Street Team. I don't know if you guys remember the shirt, but years ago, Bungie released a piece of apparel where all of the content creators known for like playing Destiny was on the shirt. And he came up with an original concept idea for all the people in the Instagram community that was really pushing the narrative for Destiny on Instagram because it was just us. Nobody was doing it. It was just us. And then a couple of months later, I reached out to Kenneth. That was all she wrote. And here we are. So thank you, Twaz.
6 years later.
Thank you, Twaz, for telling me I was broke.
What year was that you went to Twaz about that?
Damn, I was in Starbucks. I was living in New York. It would have had to have been at least maybe. It was definitely before Kenneth, so it had to have been at least maybe 3 to 4, maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
I would say max about 5 years ago.
So Destiny 1.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh
Destiny.
yeah.
Definitely.
It was in the Taken King era, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when I remember watching Twaz's stuff early on, back before he even did a rebrand for Broman or Gothalion. And he even reached out to me this was back when I was doing the little chibi stuff, and I think Twitter wise, I think we were looking at maybe he had like 6 or 7,000 followers or something. But he reached out to me. He wanted me to do I was doing commissions at the time, and he saw one of them and he said, "Hey, can you do Gothalion, something like that?" And I said, "Yeah," but he wanted it like tomorrow, and I was like,
Is that how this
"No."
works?
I was like, well, no, in his world, yes, he could pump out something super quick, I'm sure. But like in my world, like I just, I had different things happening at that time,
Right.
and commissions. I'd already had commissions lined up, and I'm like, my time, man, like I just can't, I can't do it. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, "That's a shame." That was it. But like I just couldn't. I couldn't make it happen because of my personal life and other things at the time. I just didn't allow it. But
Yeah.
that was a long time ago. I just remember that when you said that, I was like, man, I remember my first interaction with Twas.
Waz is the reason I got into doing brand content as well. And I
See?
think he I want to say he recommended me to work with Red Drop right after they stopped working together. I think he had too many big jobs going on, so I was brought in to do the motion design and top down design for their award show at the last one they had live. So they had like a closed door award show. So I did the logo, all the brand table for Lupo to come in, and that was like one of the biggest jobs I ever did. But then they brought me on later on, and I redid like their new logo for Rare Drop. I was brought on to design that as well. So and he brought me. He's like people in the emotes. Twas was like, "Oh yeah, you should go to con." I'm like, and I got to work with all these content creators on all these platforms, Facebook and Mixer, rest in peace, and Twitch. So he's been a huge,
Cliff's gone.
a huge help. Just a huge help, a kind of like a big brother, in that sense in the design world. So he's been, I guess, he's touched a lot of designers. So
Not me. I've had zero.
you hear that,
interaction with
Twas?
Twas.
Ferian wants to be touched.
We have to. Waz, you have one more heart to break.
Right.
Tell me I'm broke, Twas.
Oh my God, bro.
Okay, so
The
we'll
way
go.
Twas made Brian feel is the way that I feel when Khan looks at me. He feels so. I was like, damn, bro, I didn't mean to let you down, bro.
We'll go to
The thing
Arceus.
is, sorry.
No, you're
go
good. We'll go to Arceus so you can answer the last question, then we'll move on to the next one. So Arceus, a piece that inspires you and maybe a favorite piece that you've done.
Well, if I were to pick like a piece, like an illustrator, it would be an illustrator named Vision of 8, and he did a piece for Nade Shot that made him look like Killua, which I thought was sick.
I know that.
Because Nade Shot dyed his hair white just so he could look like Killua, because I guess he was obsessed with Hunter x Hunter. But I thought that was literally like the best thing I've ever seen. In terms of like character design, I've seen a lot of character designs, and I look at a lot of like anime stuff because I'm an anime fan, of course. And yeah, but in terms of a graphic designer, I would choose my boy Pressure. He's a well-known like apparel artist and works at Misfits. I think if you've ever heard of them before, but it wasn't I'm trying to remember. It was like it was like this Nike lightning storm wheel thing. It was just a bunch of layer styles put together. It looked like a whole gradient. And I thought it looked cool. But shout out to the boy Pressure. I love that dude. But in terms of my own favorite pieces, I have two. One is like the I Am rebrand, which basically like I switched up the logo and everything. I changed it. I wasn't tasked to do it. I chose to do it. I wanted to redo the old one and make it a little bit more modern and refined, even though it already was, to be honest. But it was unnecessary. But I ended up loving the project and how it came out. And this one hasn't came out yet. Nogi might know about it, but it's Panda's second drop. And Yeah.
Yes.
Bro, I'm literally looking at Podgy's work now, bro. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Panda second drop. I worked so hard on that, and it's such a short amount of time that we had to get it done. It was nuts. And once you guys see it, you guys are gonna be like, I think I might buy it. I think I might buy it.
It's gonna be nuts, man. It's gonna be nuts. Like, I'm excited for it. Bye.
Cool. All right, so I wanted to kind of touch on what Pherian was talking about before with like the concept art when it comes to like Destiny armor, because I actually had a question about that. Because if anybody's on the forums, obviously a lot of people are always saying, why can't Bungie just make the art that all the artists in the community are making into armor? And I want to know from an artist standpoint why that isn't as easy as people would think it could be. If you guys can speak on that, obviously I know you guys aren't game developers, but if you guys, even forsaking Arceus when it comes to like the tech part of it, why isn't it as easy to kind of bring that armor forth?
I'll say one thing. It really annoys me personally when I post something that I like, that I created on my own, and someone says, "Oh, I wish Bungie could do like that." The Bungie artists are phenomenal.
Right.
Every one of those guys is
100%.
worlds above me. They everything they do has storied history to it. They've studied it. They figured out why it's there, what's coming from. I mean, they're ridiculous. And they can only put out so many things over time. We don't even know how many concepts they have sitting on a shelf in there just waiting to come out. You know what I mean? So when people try and say that my work is in any way better than theirs or should be in the game over theirs, I take offense, like on behalf of the guys at Bungie, because it's not right, right? Instead of saying something like that, instead say, "This is great, I love it," you know.
This is
Uh,
cool.
yeah, like just
Done.
you don't need to neg another person about it. You
Right.
can just stick with the positive. Um, I know, speaking to the game perspective as why they wouldn't put it in or whatever, Monster Hunter has done some stuff where they've opened up, contests to their people, and just said, "Hey, if you like the game, submit a thing. Maybe if we like it enough, we'll put it in the game." And I do think that's really neat, and it's obviously something that can be done.
I think Warframe
But
does that as well, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, and that's fantastic. That's wonderful. But I think Destiny's artists and their story people have a very firm grasp on what they want their game to be, and throwing in some random version of somebody else's stuff. I get it. I get why it would never just take hold. But I just want to point out there, if anybody else is watching and they see somebody like myself or Khan or Brian or somebody putting out this random concept art just because we felt like doing it, please don't imply that we're doing stuff that Bungie can't do or won't do. It's not right. Like, they're more than capable of creating that kind of stuff if they want to, so stick to just the positive stuff. It doesn't help anything.
Anybody else want
That's
to
my
add
two
on to that?
cents. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, I guess when it comes to concept art, there are a lot of there are amazing designers in the Destiny art community that kind of do just designs of guns and possible guns and ornaments and et cetera, et cetera. And I would love to see them all in the game. But if anybody's ever modeled 1/4 a piece of anything in a program, and then textured it and then make sure it work in actual, and if it was a gun, make sure the animations work and all the pieces, it is more work that you might pick up a blue gun and start firing, or a rare drop. But this is okay. Somebody spent probably over 100 hours just trying to make that low poly gun work with very little design on it. Let alone trying to make what was the gun that was in D1? Touch of Malice. Trying to make that gun look good and work
I love that
and
gun.
have the spiral move at the same time. And then there are 1,000 moving pieces. So the concepts are cool, and to see the artists in the community make those concepts, but there is a what do you call it? There's a culture. There's a shape language. There is a design philosophy in place at Bungie that they're all abiding by. So there is a guiding factor behind every decision made in the game. I would love to be if they were to offer like what do you call it? emblem design for like a community member, like designs an emblem like once a season or something like that.
Of course, yeah.
That would be
That would
amazing.
awesome.
But to actually go in, because that's just, it's a file, it's flat, you put it in. But if you're talking about building armor out and then make sure that armor is functional because you saw Pauldron look good, well, if that person, if that character pulls that arm back, that Pauldron's going to go straight through his head because it's way too tall.
Yeah.
You think about those things, like it might look really cool, but
not
moving around a
functional.
3D model and then like
Right.
making sure you're not like decapitating your character.
So to be
with
fair, they
motion.
didn't care about that at all when Destiny 2 released, and the Crucible guy had the spikes right here, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
would stick his head up and just stab himself in the head. Now, what I think would be, what I'd just love to do is sign an NDA and I just want to consult on some of the art. I just think it looks cool. Selfishly, I just want to look into it and figure out their process. Let me spend a week in the place and just see how they do it. And I don't even need a job over there or anything. I just want to see. I just want to
I mean,
know.
hey,
love that fly on that wall.
with this expansion coming out, I don't know, maybe we'll get some of your artists over there.
Yeah, so jobs never been my goal. I literally just want to learn. I just want to see how they do it. You know what I mean? I'm purely curious, pure curiosity. How do they come up with the armor concept? Like watching Clinton Felker. I know most of these guys know who he is as a concept artist. He'll like find, I'm going to study Malaysia today and pull up all of this stuff on Malaysia and then create some armor pieces that harken all the aspects of the Malaysian culture. And it's just really neat because you can see his thought process behind it. I want to know, how they came up with the things they came up with and what's behind it and stuff. That interests me.
They'll post I can't pronounce. I'm gonna butcher his name if I try to, but his first name is like Demu or
Demetrius?
is it
Is it?
is it Demetrius?
No, he's
He's
an artist.
he's a Russian designer on the team.
I know who you're talking about.
He'll post he'll post his his inspirations, his references and things that he pulls from to create some of the armor, like the Fellwinter's helm. Like he used like a Dracula reference for some of the shaping and everything, and like it's really Carver. It's really interesting to see their thought processes and how they go out of the box sometimes to create some of that stuff.
All the moon stuff. Remember when they made the moon armor and weapons, and you saw all of it?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm some of it, a lot of it, I'm not crazy about, but it's their take on things and how they're pulling things together, and it's their expression of what they're trying to portray. So I respect that, but to go back to the fact that people who post these things on Reddit and everything, sure, it's great to see, like Con and like you were talking about, it's great to see a piece of 2D artwork that somebody sketched up and painted up, which is it's its own work in itself, but it's not even close to the amount of work it takes to have that thing modeled and working and rigged on a character to be animated in a game and to also work with other armors that are already in the game. Like you think about how we hodgepodge armors together in the game. You can't have armor clipping all over the place, even though there's some that do, because this one looks cool, but it can't work with this one because the Titan mark it goes through the legs. You know what I'm saying? Or all these things. I think people are so used to getting content and gaming expansions these days pumped out at such a rapid pace. They don't understand the time and the work that goes into these things. And if they did, it would probably shut a lot of them up because they would just be like, wow, I have a whole new respect for not just this one person that made this piece of armor, but this team that made this weapon, that one modeled it, one textured it, one, just it's insane. But that's ignorance, that's just simple. They don't know, or,
Yeah.
That's the internet.
Yeah, that's the internet. So,
I mean, I always say that we absorb that content at such a fast rate that they'll never be able to keep up with the speed that we do it at. It takes months and months.
And it's partly their own fault for being so successful at it. We have so entitled. We're so used to having such great work from them that you always want more and better from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's funny because every misstep that you think they've taken, someone else loves that armor piece. You know, and like the stuff that's out right now, people are making fun of it because it's got like almost a Byzantine style to it, and some people hate that. And somebody out there loves it. They think they finally I get what I was waiting on. You know, so for every time we're upset, there's somebody else out there that's thrilled. But one of them is going to get on Reddit and write a 2-page dissertation on why Bungie has failed them as human beings. You know.
Oh,
But they'll still be around for next expansion though.
Yeah.
I'm done with this season.
Yeah.
Until next season.
Until next season.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that
hate this
goes.
game.
That's like with art though. It's just like it's all opinion based.
Of course,
something that
it's
you
all
can
subjective.
like. Yeah, it's all subjective. So
Absolutely.
sticking on the Destiny topic, we did have a question over on Twitter. What is your favorite piece of art from Destiny? Either armor set, character design, weapon, or even enemy design.
wow.
I would probably pick. I'd probably pick Wakanda said with Touch of Malice. That was my favorite, one of my favorite guns to use in D1 because it was so unique, and the design of it. I always wanted exotics to really kind of capture that. I felt like Touch of Malice really felt like an exotic. I would probably say that would be my favorite one.
My favorite one would have to honestly be my favorite weapon in the game up until this day, which has to be the last word. And the reason why it's the last word is because I don't know if you guys remember the Ghost Edition. I'm always talking about the Ghost. The very first collector's edition that came out, it came with a book, right? And the book had like literature, lore, X, Y, and Z. But one of the main things that it had was that it had concept art for some of the exotics in the game. But if you got the collector's edition, of course, your idea is to open it up and adventure out into what the collector's has to offer. So as I'm looking at these guns, I have no idea what they are. Like I had no clue. I saw the Gallahorn, I saw the Patience in Time, I saw the Last Word, and I think I saw the Invective. And the Last Word design, it blew me away. I'm like, what is this? Like it was it's to the point to where the concept art drove me so much that once I got the gun, I never let it go. And if you guys remember, Mike, you remember, I was obsessed with Valsgard, the shader in Destiny 1, because of the fact that it was the same color scheme as the Last Word. So I would have to say it would be the Last Word. The design of the Last Word is just phenomenal. It's perfect. It's a gorgeous gun. It's gorgeous. Enemy wise, I have to say Thrall. Thrall look so creepy. Everything about them just is like itchy. Everything about them is itchy and pasty and flaky. And their brain it reminds me of a liquor. That's why. Because I loved Resident Evil growing up. So seeing that and seeing how they operate. Yeah,
not
liquor.
a liquor.
I thought you would
No,
talk
it's
about
liquor.
alcohol as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Wait, what?
Oh, so
I know you're talking about. I knew.
thank you, Con. Bunch of alcoholics. Anyway. So it reminded me of the liquor. And when I fought, like the moment I first saw Thrall, it was obviously one of the basic ones, but then they had the explosive ones coming out, and I'm like, this is just God tier. This is God tier. Thrall's in the Last Word. I'm sold.
Anybody else?
So for me, the concept art, the original stuff that came out. So I was a like con as far as taking a decade off. So I got out of college, was really disillusioned with art because I spent 4 years there learning how to practice. Instead of learning anything new, it was literally, art is just practice. Okay, great. So I got real mad and stopped doing art altogether. Focused on writing. So I wrote 13 novel-ish type things, and then Destiny came out, and I started seeing the concept art by like Jesse Van Dyke. What's his name? I have it right here somewhere. Dorje Belbrook. Have you seen him? Anyway, stuff that I can't do. I love landscapes that they've done these like futuristic but rotting worlds and stuff like that. That post-apocalyptic future, but from like a golden era. It was beautiful and it really spoke to me. So that kind of stuff is what really brings me in. And then more along my own style, Ryan Demita's stuff, all the little cutscenes you see right now that are kind of sketchy looking, black and white. I love that. I think it's beautiful. It's so simple and yet so detailed. I can't get enough of that. So the conceptual artist from Destiny are really the ones that do it for me. In game, I've always liked more pragmatic type weapons and armor. So some of the original Iron Banner gear from D1 was really solid to me. The Iron Will set for right now, that kind of more looks like actual more armory type stuff, and some of the hand cannons that have like a solid form to them and aren't Omelon. I hate Omelon style stuff, but like the more the Halfdan D, like functional looking rifles and stuff, kind of bulky. I like that kind of stuff. It's just my style personally.
Cool.
Forsaken, what about you?
When it comes to weaponry, would have to be the icebreaker. That was like just the heat sinks and the scope and just the form of it. It's not practical, but it just looks beautiful. It's just super clean. In terms of armor, I would probably say back from D1, Mask of the Third Man, or
The third eye.
That's the third eye.
yeah.
Oh, I love that exotic. Oh,
Such a cool exotic, and I'm gonna go for landscapes. It would probably be Venus from D1. It's just super dark and gloomy, rainy, decrepit. Just really, really cool. But there was once a civilization there that thrived, and there's history behind it, and just the fall of man was really, really cool to see in that space. So
Khan, what about you?
Favorite armor is easy. I never get this helmet off. It's the knucklehead radar. It's like such a base, like functional, like it looks like hard, like the blue helmets you get in D1. But there's like this UI that's floating in front of it, that's moving.
So
I finally got an ornament that I could use, that new ornament this season. I was like, new ornament! I was freaking out, and I saw like the new ornament and like, the new design, the new UI over it. I was like, I've got to animate this. I've got to animate it. So the knucklehead radar like always stood on me since D1. Like the way it moved, and like, oh, this is so beautiful. And I did snipe, and I had no one's on my side, my left and right, because I hard scope too long, and then I die. Armor, the armor gun wise, well, not gun. I wouldn't. Well, weapon wise, it would have to be a Dark Drinker from D1. Like I never took that sword off. It was like nothing was more savage than this huge chopper. It didn't need to be elegant. It was just like a bent blade of just a hunk of metal that looks like it could take the legs off of a fallen captain with one swipe. I need to have more of this in the game. I need more savagery like that. I need something that can get close. Like they got the same animation with the one from last season. I forget the name of it now.
Lament.
Lament, kind of like that. It's like it's like a big computer chip. I'm not a big fan of the aesthetic. I like that kind of like that barbarian. Like I could chop 4 or 5 people in half with. I love it. I love it.
Here I am with the quick fang.
Yeah. And I'm like,
here you
go ahead, me block real quick and shatter your sword.
The whole berserker sword. All right, bro. All right, bro.
And I think the aesthetics from the last expansion with the Brave Tech facility, the orange, red, white, and then the designs they had on the walls throughout the entire facility, like just walking through there, like that for me inspired me to do, like I did artwork inspired by that one piece of the game for like a month.
Talk about the Clovis Bray facility.
The Clovis Bray facility.
Yeah, I agree. That aesthetic was beautiful.
I was doing pieces of from that like aesthetic for like at least 5 weeks. I could not, that color scheme. I made a poster of it actually.
Yeah,
I designed a poster. So that aesthetic, and if you've ever seen a very little known indie horror movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow, it has that same eerie, like 1970s like horror, like, but it's still like mixed in with like a space aesthetic. It's just very creepy, and I just wish they had like more like dark lights in there because it's kind of well lit, but there's something about like those facilities that look kind of sanitary, like a little bit too clean. There's something hiding behind the walls, or there's like this kind of like this underlying fear that's attached to like something that like a corporation like that, kind of like the Umbrella Corp in the first Resident Evil movie. Like this looks really like too clean, and
This
then
is
all of
too
a sudden,
clean.
like, yeah, something's not right here. This is like Disney clean. I don't like this.
Arceus, what about you?
In terms of weapon, I would have to agree with Nogi. It would be the last word. And for the longest time, I've always wanted, like, during D1, I wanted, like, a blacked out last word. And then we got First Curse, which I was kind of happy with, because I was more of, like, because last word was, like, arguably one of the best guns in the game, right?
Right.
But then Destiny 2 came out, it came back, I was happy. And then Ornaments for it came out, and then that it looked like crystallized. It was like
Mhm.
a crystal black last word.
Mm.
But in terms of enemies, I like Oryx's design. I like the animation on how he comes in. I like the whole actually I like how he does it. I don't like how Taken look, because I feel like it's kind of repetitive just because of like the actual design of them themselves, because it's just reskin and then black and then stars inside of them or whatever. But I like how Oryx does it, where he just does like the big explosion. He carries the big sword around with him. It almost looks like his wings are a part of it too, which I
Mhm.
thought that's why the Taken King raid was my favorite raid out of all of them.
Yes.
The magnitude of the Taken King, like the whole concept design of Taken King was very it gave a very dreadful, which I mean dreadnought, but it gave a like it gave a very um it gave a very rugged but like Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse vibe. Everything was like super cathedral based. Like it was magnificent. But
Reminds me of,
by
Devil
far
May
one
Cry
of
a little bit.
you know that's my heart. Why you say that? Why you say that? You know I did. Come on, why you did that? Because you know that you know that that's why I'm in gaming. Why you brought that up? Why you
He's about to start
I ain't
crying.
gonna talk about. I'm not. Yes. There's a oh wow there's a apparel company that specializes in just Devil May Cry apparel. So they make streetwear dedicated to Dante's like style, and it's called Volante Design, Volante Design. They just released a Virgil coat. Like I want to print everything. Like they just and oh my god! Like I've been going to Comic-Con. Their coats have been there every time, and I'm staring at the guy. I'm like, bro, one day, bro.
Didn't they
One
release
day.
a Devil May Cry edition where like they had his coat and it was like a couple $1,000s?
Yes, Mike.
You almost bought it, right?
Yes, Mike. I did.
So you have to decide between the coat or Twas. Is that the situation?
Going down.
No, he was thinking about it, and Capcom hit him up, and he was like, "Yeah, you can't afford this."
Watch me end up making my own fucking coat. Watch, I'm doing it. I swear to God. Relentless.
All right, last but not least, Brian, what about you?
Favorite weapon. I remember the first exotic that I saw when I first started playing Destiny. I was like in the tower, and there's this warlock. He came walking up to the bounty supplier or whatever. Back then, there was only like one guy you could go to. But he had on Thorn, like, and it was attached to his back or whatever. And he had the Void Fang robes on. Was a warlock. And I was thinking to myself, like, I'm looking at this thing, like, what is that? Because I had blues and I had like a single legendary or something. And I inspect him and I see this gun and I'm like, Thorn, and I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, God, that looks awesome. I'm like, that's a damn pistol. Like, that's a damn hand cannon. That thing looks sweet. So, and I start, you can see the lore, and I read the lore, or I say lore, but it was the little tag up under it to win the enemies is to see them as not as equals, but as I forget the rest of it. But reading that, and then I'm like, I'm just sitting here like, oh my God, that is like sick. Like then I go and I like figure out how to get this weapon, and so that was my first like true design love of weapons in Destiny. In armor wise, because I've always been more of like I've liked the Hive and their feel. Same with Oryx, but Crota's Inn. I like the Taken King armor, but the raid armor for Crotosian for the Warlock and for me the Hunter was some of my favorite designed armor to date. I just that aesthetic and to me, in my opinion, like of all the Warlock sets, that Warlock set with that way they designed that helmet and everything was so wicked. It was
I
like
love
one
that
of the
helmet.
coolest meshes of like space and wizardry and like magic. It just made them look like a warlock. You know what I'm saying? Like it looked that wicked. I don't know, but when I saw the first person wearing that stuff, I was like, I gotta get it, man. I gotta go get it. But yeah, that probably my favorite armor weapon and what was the other question?
Enemy design.
Enemy design. Oh, I'd have to go with Oryx as well. I like a lot of the other characters that have been introduced throughout Destiny, but nothing to this date when I've played Destiny has made me feel like I actually had something that was a threat to me as a player, but also to the world as Oryx did when he came in. Like, because there's some of the scenes, like the very first opening scene when you go into the very first mission of the Taken King, he doesn't appear necessarily, but his face does in that area and his voice booming through that. Like, it was just like, man, this guy scares the hell out of me.
He's mean.
And yeah. And he just tells you, he's just like so commanding and everything, which is right for his character, but I just loved it. I loved everything about that expansion, and I've enjoyed Destiny 2 because they've just added so much, but I still haven't had anything create that same feeling as that one expansion did. And I think it's just because of the character. I mean, they did a great job on his design, but like they built him up a lot in the story up until that point because you keep hearing Oryx, and you'd already had Crota, so you're thinking like, this guy's going to be pretty rough when he does get here. It's almost like the darkness,
Yeah.
except the darkness has been a little bit more. I don't know. I don't really know how to take all that yet. It's kind of turned a different direction than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I think like Oryx is
Yeah.
more like the Thanos, while everybody else is kind of more of like the villain for just that movie. And then that's really it. Oryx is really the one that's
it
like
kinda
the
feels like
threatening
that.
one.
Yeah.
Which we
That's
still
kind
haven't
of a-
seen Savathun yet, so I don't know how bad that's going to end up being.
Yeah, I'm hoping it has an epic boss fight like that because Oryx
Yeah.
is, the King's 4 raid, probably like my top definitely my top 2 raids, but that boss fight itself really felt like a boss fight. Like really felt like, hey, I need to take this guy out, and that's it. Every other raid boss hasn't really captured that feeling for me. Maybe if we did Riven legit, it would probably, but nobody does that legit, so
Hey, I
doesn't
disagree.
count.
I did it legit.
Man.
I did it with Gigs. We did it. G1 did it legitly, and I think that was the last time that we did
One
it. Gigs was, bro. It was so funny because everybody knows that Gigs is a Sherpa, so Gigs was telling us what to do, and we was just fucking. I was horrid, and it was terrible because Gigs was on the other side, like in the last room before you get to Riven. Gigs was on the other side, and I think I was on the side with Hunter, and I was like, bro, they was telling me, yo, you got to step on the panel, Nagi, get on the panel. I'm like, Nagi, get on the panel.
Mind you, Nagi's the one that brings last word into a raid.
Right. Yep. I will never let that die, bro. I did Vault of Glass with the last word. I don't care. I did it. Judge me. Come on, man. Let me live, bro.
Hey, man, you do whatever you want your fire team, man. If I go to a raid and Nagi's there with the last word, I'm like,
Booted from Fire 2.
I am gone. I will boot myself from that team. You guys have fun.
I think at this point we just need like a Khan shaking his head emote for Nagi's chat every time Nagi does something.
I need a disappointed Khan emote. That's what I need.
I feel like Vault of Glass and Leviathan are similar in that neither one had enough time to build up to it. So like Vault of Glass is like probably one of the best mechanical raids ever.
Yeah.
But like you're fighting Atheon and everybody's like, Who?
Who is that?
Who's this guy? Why?
I don't even know who you are.
I'll just push him off the cliff. Like,
Solar nades.
but Oryx's thing, he had time to ruminate. You had time to build up to him, like you said with Thanos. And the same thing with Callus. Like Callus's Leviathan was a fantastic raid, the first time around. But you're like, why am I fighting this big robot dude? Like, why am I here? What's the point? Grow fat from strength? Dude, I'm like Khan. I'm ripped up. What am I doing? I'm not getting fat. So I just feel like they suffered from being the first raid. Basically, they didn't have time to build, right? And it's kind of sad right now that it doesn't feel like they're putting as much effort into producing big raids. Like the Clovis Bray one's fantastic too. But then you're fighting Taniks again.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, like
I was kind of thrown off about that.
I kind of I just feel like they missing the beat with what we want. We want a built up boss, with somebody that's an epic boss.
I was kind of upset the way they did Dominus Gaul when you started Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Because I thought his story was like this dude is.
I thought it was gonna be long form.
He is incredibly menacing.
I thought it was gonna be a raid boss fight. You fight him, sort of like Oryx. You fight him in the last mission. The mission,
because
and then you do the raid.
Because you had no light then. He was pretty intimidating. I was like, this guy can literally break you in half and then eat he would pick his teeth with your bones. I could feel that. The way you talk, like the dialogue with the speaker, that felt like it was like really good dialogue. But then it was like a story mission you fought, and I'm like, I want to find this guy later on. I want to have to track this guy down to his ship and then beat the living crap out of him for
And then the next week they're like, go fight the giant fish golden castle guy. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
What? Okay, I guess he's got shiny guns. Sure.
I feel like Dominus Gaul, his character would have been interesting because he can use the supers.
Right.
Like, when have you ever seen that? Like, in terms of a boss fight, and he felt like I was almost intimidated by him, like Oryx. Except he's not a god. There's a difference, Like you're a guardian of light. You have powers and stuff like that. You shouldn't be scared of an alien or something like that. But that guy, he's pretty intimidating, But I feel like they're kind of trying to restart with that with the new season. I don't know who it is. It's like some lady or something like that. I don't keep up with Destiny anymore. I don't play. But yeah,
some lady.
It's some lady that's like a general or something like that. And
Some lady just showed up and just
she's like, oh, you better bow down to me. And Zavala's all like, nah,
Now, if Gaul would have walked up from behind her, he saw his face and I'm like, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
It's crazy because me and Kenneth recently did the Dead Man's Tale scout rifle exotic quest.
Call out spoilers before.
No spoilers.
Has anyone ever?
No spoilers.
Everybody's done it or no?
No,
I haven't done it yet.
Haven't done it yet.
I don't have the game.
You got it. You got to play it. Specifically because of what we're talking about. You got to play it because that feeling that I got from what happened, I'm like, hey.
It's creepy.
Hey.
It is really, really good.
Why is this?
No spoilers, but that last piece was probably some of the most amazing environment I've seen before.
And, they have done really good long form storytelling. I like the story about what's happening, but for instance, the battlegrounds that we're doing right now. I like the idea. We're going to fight these guys to take them out so that she has a weak war cancel. But I load back in and it's the same dude. I just blew you up. I literally just blew you up. And I get that it's part of the game's replayability, but it almost feels like they, instead of battlegrounds, should have been story missions. That you're hunting these guys down, kind of like you did with Forsaken.
I would have liked that, actual generals that have a story and
and then the battlegrounds themselves could just be, we need to weaken they've got a bunch of forces in the area. Can you go take out their captains? And I don't know. It just kind of to me it weakened the broad plot by making you redo. I don't know. Overall, I like the story beats that they've got going.
Yeah. I think they were going with something like they did in what is the Lord of the Ring game? The Shadow of Mordor, where you had
the Nemesis system.
Yeah, that's a really unique system.
Which EA now has a patent for.
Oh, geez. If they would have built,
Yeah.
like, you find, like, the sub-general, the sub-lieutenant of the general you got to find in the world during a public event,
Yeah.
and then, like, beat him and find, like, where he's at, like, beat his location out of him. I'm like, well, yeah, I could do that. And then that will make the battle rounds like, all right, I found the guy. And
That'd
then
be
if
cool.
you, that'd have been different. That would have been, like, a little bit more integration of the actual system we have in place. But, you know, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how long that would take.
Yeah, I'm
It would-
not
understand to be fun.
second guessing
We're
them.
speculating.
Yeah.
We're speculating.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
speculating.
I do enjoy the overall story beats they got going right now, though.
Yeah,
The
everything's feeling
overall
pretty
theme's
good. All right, so we're getting to that mark. I just want to say, thank you to everybody that came on, took the time out to, spend here, talk about art, talk about Destiny. Everybody in chat also, just want to thank you guys. We're gonna go around, give a shout out to somebody in our lives, somebody in the community, and then we'll have one last quick question to answer, and then go rate somebody. So, PHERIAN, we'll start with you. The question is also going to be, if you can give one piece of advice to an aspiring artist, what would it be? And then your shout out.
One piece of advice: use your time wisely. There's no reason to give up because there's no finish line for any of this stuff. You just keep going forward. Do not be afraid of referencing things and for your own knowledge, even tracing things to stuff like that, because all pieces of information feed the mind for later on, right? So don't let. There's a lot of people on Twitter and stuff that turn their nose up at people referencing other art. Well, that's has been since the dawn of time that artists have been finding the most efficient way to get this piece of things communicated. So don't be afraid of that at all. Just keep plugging away and stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Just do you, because all of us hate ourselves compared to our heroes and stuff. It's how it is. Shout out to my wife for putting up with me, man.
PHERIAN, I appreciate you taking time out. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, man.
Appreciate you for inviting me.
Pleasure. Arceus?
One piece of advice is that have more than one source of inspiration, whether that be Pinterest or Behance or anything like that. Twitter's okay, I'm not gonna down it, but if you could be like Forsaken and have multiple. That's like the best way to have inspiration if you're looking for inspiration. And in terms of productivity, just try to find the meaning on why you're doing it in the first place. What's your end goal in terms of it? Because that's really for how it works for me. I keep doing the things I want to do just because I want to end up in the place I want to end up being in. And I want to be happy with what I'm doing. Hence why I'm going to school for this. At first it was going to be for engineering, but then I was 50-50. So I'd rather go somewhere where I know it's going to be 100%. Plus it looks nice on the resume, of course. But shout outs, I have a lot of people, but my girlfriend, Triple, Guns, Panda, anyone that supported me, Kami, throughout the years and put up with me, because I'm a little youngling. I could be a little irresponsible sometimes. So I appreciate everyone for supporting me and believing in what I can do.
Awesome.
And thank you for having me on the show.
No, of course. Thank you, Arceus, for taking the time out. We'll go with Khan.
One piece of advice for anybody, not just artists. Talked about this recently, but when you're working on something and learning how to do something, never use the word can't. I can't do this. I can't draw this person. I can never do this. I'm not equipped to do that. I can't think like that. I can't, accomplish this task. Whenever I see something I want to do that I am not ready to accomplish yet, just add this one little word. It'll change your entire life. Three letters. Like, I can't draw like that yet. I cannot render 3D, yet. I cannot create something like that yet. The word yet has taken me from doing something, drawing, 112 by 112 images to working with video game companies on their merchandise, to working with the biggest brands and biggest creators in the industry. I don't. You never want to say never, or just lay on the word can't, because it's true. If you say can, it'll be true. It'll be true forever. I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, you're right, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, add yet to everything. Like I can't climb that mountain yet, but I can do it. I can do it in give me 5 years, or 2 years, or 6 months, or if you're gonna be ambitious, give me a month. So you can always try. And what was the other question? I almost forgot.
It's just shout out.
Oh, shout outs. I gotta give a shout out to everybody that took a chance on hiring me. As somebody that didn't go to design school, who was not a professional designer, over the past 3.5 to 4 years, you guys have taken a huge chance on somebody that has never done it before, and I and my family thank you for giving me this opportunity to do the thing I never dreamt I thought I'd be able to do. Because I gave them a design, when I turned 25, and I got to pick it back up when I turned, 35. So it's been a great time. So big shout out to them, the community, for supporting me.
Awesome. Thank you, Khan. Appreciate you taking the time out. Forsaken.
One word of advice. Don't be afraid to take a break for your mental. Like, you can't work 24/7, 7 days a week, unless you're Khan. But yeah, making sure that you're hydrated, you're just you're okay in your head, because I know as an artist you can always get in your head saying that you're not good enough, you're not as good as X, Y, and Z person, and you just kind of have to accept that everybody is on their own path and working towards the same goal, is just to do this for a living and be happy. And it may take longer, it may come a little bit sooner, but yeah, that is my big tip, because I suffer from depression, anxiety. I get in my own head about a lot of projects. I'm like, this looks like X, Y, and Z's project that they did 6 months ago, but it's your own piece at the end of the day. Big shout outs to 2 people. One, my dad. He pushed me when I wanted to give up on graphic design, and he has supported me through college, being out of work. But yeah, big shout out to him, and another big shout out to Cliff, Tanagi. I don't know where I would be in my career without you, because we both took a chance on each other about 5 years ago. I did free work for you, and you said, give me a year and I will get you paid. And you kept your promise.
Said that. I said that, bro.
Yeah.
Give me a year, I'm gonna get you paid, man.
And now I have clients 6 months in advance. So, like, you promoting me and being a part of my path, like, it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
It was an easy choice, brother. It was an easy choice.
But yeah.
It was an easy choice.
Awesome. Nagi?
Am I giving words of advice as an artist? If you're an artist? As someone who is...
You did artwork, so...
I did some artwork. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself, and trust yourself enough to know that if you're stressing out about your project, that is a good thing, because it's your brain and your body telling you that you give a shit. Like, that's all that is. You care. Enjoy. Like, it's a stressful feeling, but dive into it head first without hesitation, because that's showing that you care. That's all that is. No more, no less. Shout out, honestly, anybody who's just not going, like, just not quitting. Anyone who's just not just relentlessly not giving up. I have so much respect for each and every one of you. Even though, like, the ones who have already given up, or the ones who, you know what I'm saying, doesn't feel like they can make it. I get that. And I truly feel that those individuals have it in them. They just got to get to that point. But the ones who know that they can't give up and are pushing through, that fight is difficult. So the fact that you're choosing to do that, major shout out. Major shout out.
Love
That's
it. Last but not least, first of all, I haven't even made a comment today. I've been holding myself back. I haven't made a comment on how cool Brian's shirt is. Obviously, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I keep looking at the shirt and I'm like, I want it. I want it. I need it. But last but not least, Mr. Brian MONCUS.
So first of all, this shirt was my wife found this at a place called Five Below, just like
Five Below.
Nice.
Yeah.
Five
Okay.
Below.
I had no idea it had T-shirts, and she sent me these photos, and I'm like, yes to that, yes to that, yes to that. I mean, I mean that $5. It's awesome. It's gonna be hard to top, or I say top. It's gonna be hard to add to anything that any of you guys have already said, because it's all great advice. A lot of it that I can relate to. Definitely can touch on the being super critical of yourself and comparing your work to others. Even I've learned over time that, and from reading about other artists and other things too, that they've all done it. No matter how great you think they are, they've all compared and like judged their own work and bashed themselves. So you're not alone in that. Doesn't matter if you only draw stick figures and compare it to people who draw, something with some shape. It's there's no comparison there. We all do it. It's worse now than ever due to the internet and the amount of artwork we have at our fingertips that we're able to look at on a whim. You don't even have to seek it out anymore. It's just in front of your face. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, any site, just about, it's easy to see that and say, wow, they're doing so great, but you don't really know the struggle that they went through to even do that one piece. So I guess biggest takeaway that I could give is for artists is in the world of social media, do not put, and I know it's hard, but do not put a lot of emphasis on followers, likes, or anything of that regard. It literally does not mean anything. You can be thankful for it, that people appreciate your work and are sharing your work. That's about the best that you can hope for, because in the end, it's all fleeting. I mean, the likes and the followers, they're there to see your content. They're there to see what you put out. They're fans of your work, but that's just a number. And the more you focus on the number, the more disconnected from your artwork you're going to become. It's always good to step back and look at your artwork and say, do I like what I'm doing? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Regardless of Twitter, regardless of Instagram, regardless of whatever value you're placing on your art from someone else's likes. Like, if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you're doing it for the likes or doing it for the clout that you're getting for that one brief post, you're gonna either, let's say, burn yourself out. It's gonna be worse than that. You're really gonna crash. It's gonna happen. So as an artist, always utilize social media, but always keep it at arm's distance, because in the end, it's going to matter more that you appreciate what you're doing than if they appreciate what you're doing.
Awesome.
So,
And what? And then also your shout out.
My wife, my kids who are with me here, who's eating all my Tums right now, and I mean, seriously, I don't know. He gets into the weirdest stuff sometimes. My wife, who's she's on a trip right now, so I'm here alone with them. And my trash fam, as we call them, closest friends that we play Destiny with. Some people that we met in the community that have become really close real life friends of ours and really great people. So yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, again, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time out, coming up here. Everybody who stood with us, appreciate you guys. Anybody listening on podcasts or watching it on YouTube later, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.